I thought I had it all figured out when I married Marcus 3 years ago. I'm Priya, and at 28, I was running my own successful digital marketing agency, pulling in 6 figures while he was still struggling to get his construction business off the ground. Love makes you blind, they say, and God, were they right? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you, the side. Red flags were there from the beginning, but I painted them green in my mind. Marcus would always conveniently forget his wallet when we went out. His car would mysteriously break down right before rent was due. His business expenses always seemed to coincide with my payday, but he had this way of making me feel like I was being selfish for even noticing. "Baby, you know I'm good for it," he'd say, flashing that charming smile that made my knees weak. "Once this next contract comes through, I'll pay you back everything, plus interest. We're a team, right?" Team. That word haunted me for months, because apparently, in Marcus's definition of teamwork, I was the one doing all the heavy lifting while he sat back and enjoyed the ride. The breaking point came on a Tuesday, evening in March. I'd been working late, trying to land a major client that could set us up financially for years. I came home exhausted, expecting maybe a home-cooked meal or at least a warm welcome. Instead, I found Marcus on our couch, the couch I'd bought, playing video games on the gaming setup I'd purchased for his birthday. "How was work, babe?" he asked without even looking up from his screen, fingers still mashing buttons like his life depended on it. That's when I noticed the stack of bills on the coffee table. Overdue notices, final warnings, all in my name, all for things I thought he was handling with the money I'd been giving him for months. "Marcus," I said, my voice eerily calm. "Can you pause that for a second?" He sighed dramatically, like I was asking him to move mountains. When he finally looked at me, I held up the electric bill, past due for 3 months. "What's this?" I asked. His face went pale, then flushed red. "Oh, that. Yeah, I meant to take care of that. But the business has been slow and where's the money I've been giving you for utilities?" Silence. The kind of silence that speaks volumes. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. That's when it all came pouring out. Not because he wanted to confess, but because I started digging. The money I thought was going to keep our lights on had been funding his boys' nights out. The rent money I'd transferred had gone to his new motorcycle. 3 years of my hard-earned savings had vanished into his black hole of irresponsibility, and he had the audacity to act like I was the problem for bringing it up. "You're being dramatic, Priya," he said, standing up and towering over me. "Couples share finances. That's what marriage is about. Sharing?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Marcus, I've been carrying us financially for 3 years. You haven't contributed a single penny to this household." That's when he said the words that shattered whatever was left of my heart. "Well, maybe if you weren't so controlling about money, I wouldn't have to find other ways to get what I need." Other ways. The phrase hung in the air like a toxic cloud. That's when I realized this wasn't just financial abuse. This was betrayal on a level I couldn't have imagined. I spent that night going through our bank statements, credit card bills, everything. The picture that emerged was devastating. While I'd been working 60-hour weeks to build our future, Marcus had been systematically draining our accounts. Expensive dinners I never attended, hotels I'd never been to, charges at jewelry stores for gifts I'd never received. The final stab came when I found the receipt in his jacket pocket the next morning. A $5,000 necklace purchased. The same day I'd given him money for his business emergency. But this necklace wasn't around my neck. I'd never seen it before in my life. When I confronted him, he didn't even try to lie anymore. "Look, Priya, you make good money, and I have needs. I never promised to be your charity case forever." Charity case, 3 years of marriage, and that's how he saw our relationship. I was his personal ATM, and he was just making withdrawals. That afternoon, while Marcus was out, probably spending more of my money, I made a decision that would change everything. I called David Chen, Marcus's boss at the construction company. I'd met David several times at company events, and he'd always been respectful, intelligent, and most importantly, he actually paid his own bills. David, it's Priya, Marcus's wife. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. What David told me next made my blood run cold. Marcus hadn't just been using me. He'd been lying about his job, his income, everything. The construction business he claimed to be struggling with, it was thriving. Marcus was making excellent money. He just wasn't bringing any of it home. But David's next words changed the entire game. Priya, there's something else you should know. We've been investigating some financial discrepancies, and Marcus's name has come up. If what we suspect is true, he won't be working here much longer. As I hung up the phone, I realized my husband hadn't just betrayed me, he'd betrayed everyone around him. And for the first time in 3 years, I wasn't planning to clean up his mess. I was planning something much more satisfying. The game was about to change, and Marcus had no idea what was coming for him. My husband used me for money. Part 2. Planning Revenge. The next morning, I woke up with a clarity I hadn't felt in years. Marcus was still asleep beside me, snoring peacefully like he hadn't just destroyed our entire marriage the night before. Looking at him lying there so carelessly, I felt something shift inside me. The broken, desperate wife was gone. What remained was a woman who'd built a 6-figure business from scratch and wasn't about to let anyone walk all over her anymore. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I slipped out of bed and started my day like any other, except this time every move was calculated. While making coffee, I was mentally cataloging every asset in our apartment that I'd paid for. While Marcus showered, I was opening a new bank account on my phone. By the time he stumbled into the kitchen asking what was for breakfast, I'd already begun the process of reclaiming my life. Make yourself some cereal, I said sweetly, not looking up from my laptop. I have an important meeting today. The meeting was with David, and it wasn't about business. Well, not the kind Marcus would expect. David suggested we meet at a coffee shop downtown, away from the construction site. When I arrived, I barely recognized the confident, well-dressed man sitting in the corner booth. At company parties, David had always seemed professional but reserved. Today, there was something different about him, an intensity that made my pulse quicken. "Thank you for meeting me," I said, sliding into the seat across from him. "After our conversation yesterday, I couldn't stop thinking about your situation," he replied, his dark eyes serious. "And about what I discovered at work, what David told. Me next was like Christmas morning, and Judgment Day rolled into one. Marcus hadn't just been stealing from me, he'd been embezzling from the company. Small amounts at first, but over the past year, it had escalated to nearly $50,000. David had been building a case, but he needed more evidence. "The thing is," David said, leaning forward, "if we move too quickly, he might destroy evidence or flee. We need to be strategic about this." That's when the plan began to form. It was beautiful in its simplicity and devastating in its precision. "What if," I said slowly, "we gave him enough rope to hang himself?" David's eyebrows raised. "What do you mean?" "Marcus thinks he's untouchable because he has me as his safety net. What if we let him believe that while we gather everything we need to destroy him completely?" Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel, it means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Over the next 2 hours, David and I crafted a plan that would expose Marcus for exactly what he was. David would give Marcus access to a dummy account with tracking software, making it look like a promotion while actually documenting every fraudulent transaction. Meanwhile, I would play the loving wife, continuing to provide Marcus with money while secretly documenting every lie, every manipulation, every moment of financial abuse. But the plan had an unexpected side effect. Sitting across from David, watching his mind work, seeing the respect in his eyes when he talked about my business acumen, I remembered what it felt like to be valued as an equal partner rather than a walking ATM. "You know," David said as we prepared to leave, "Marcus has talked about you at work, but he never mentioned how brilliant you are." "What did he say about me?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. David's jaw tightened. "He called you his golden goose, said you were good for it whenever the guys joked about him never paying for drinks." The humiliation burned, but it also fueled my determination. Marcus had been bragging about using me to his co-workers, including his boss. The same boss who was now looking at me like I was the most impressive woman he'd ever met. "David," I said, standing up, "when this is all over, would you like to have dinner? A real dinner, where both people pay for themselves?" His smile was slow and genuine. "I'd like that very much." That evening, I went home and played the perfect wife. I made Marcus his favorite dinner, listened to him complain about his difficult boss, and even transferred another $1,000 to his account when he claimed he needed it for a big opportunity. All while wearing a wire that David had given me, recording every manipulative word. "You're the best, baby," Marcus said, kissing my cheek after I confirmed the transfer. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "Neither do I replied. But the meaning behind my words was completely different from what he thought. Over the next 2 weeks, Marcus walked straight into our trap. He accessed the dummy account 17 times, transferring small amounts he thought wouldn't be noticed. He bragged to his coworkers about his business investments while secretly funding weekend trips with friends. He even used the company credit card for personal expenses, thinking David was too busy to notice. But David noticed everything, and so did I. The most satisfying part was watching Marcus's confidence grow. He started coming home later, spending more money, even had the audacity to suggest I invest in a vacation for him and his buddies. "You work so hard, Priya," he said one night, rubbing my shoulders. "You deserve to treat the people you love." I almost laughed. After 3 years of being his personal bank, he was still trying to manipulate me into giving him more. "Actually," I said, turning around to face him, "I've been thinking about investments lately." His eyes lit up. "Yeah? What kind of investments?" "The kind that pay off big in the end," I said with a smile that he completely misunderstood. What Marcus didn't know was that while he was busy digging his own grave, David and I were spending our lunch breaks together, ostensibly planning his downfall but increasingly just enjoying each other's company. David treated me like an intellectual equal, asked about my business, respected my opinions. The contrast with Marcus was staggering. "You know what the worst part is?" I told David one afternoon as we reviewed the evidence we'd collected. "I actually loved him. I thought we were building something together." "You were building something," David said quietly. He was just tearing it down. By the end of the second week, we had everything we needed. Bank records, recorded conversations, documented theft, witness statements from coworkers who'd seen Marcus's spending habits. The evidence was overwhelming and devastating. The trap was set, the evidence was gathered, and Marcus was completely oblivious to the tsunami about to hit him. All that was left was springing it at exactly the right moment for maximum impact. My husband used me for money. Part 3. The reaction Friday morning arrived like Judgment Day, and I'd never felt more alive. Marcus was in the shower, probably planning how to spend the money he thought he'd stolen from David's dummy account, while I sat at our kitchen table with a folder full of evidence that would end his world as he knew it. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The plan was simple but devastating. David would confront Marcus at work with the embezzlement evidence, while I would simultaneously serve him with divorce papers and freeze all our joint accounts. The timing had to be perfect. We wanted him to feel the full weight of losing everything at once. At exactly 10 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from David. It's time. I could picture the scene unfolding at the construction site. David calling Marcus into the office, laying out months of documented theft, watching the color drain from his face as he realized his golden goose wasn't just flying away, she was taking him down with her. Meanwhile, I was greeting the process server at our front door, signing the papers that would officially end our marriage and begin my new life. But the real satisfaction came an hour later when Marcus burst through our apartment door, his face a mask of rage and panic. "Priya!" he screamed, slamming the door, so hard our wedding photo fell off the wall and shattered. "What the hell did you do?" I looked up from my laptop calmly. "Good morning, Marcus. How was work?" "Don't play games with me." His hands were shaking. "David fired me. He says I stole money, but that's impossible because—" He stopped mid-sentence, the realization hitting him like a freight train. "Because—" "What, Marcus? Because you thought you were smarter than everyone else?" His face went through a rainbow of emotions: confusion, anger, fear, and finally, desperate calculation. "Baby, whatever David told you, he's lying. He's trying to break us up because he's jealous of what we have." I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Actually," I said, standing up and walking to our kitchen counter where I'd laid out printed bank statements. "David didn't tell me anything I didn't already know. Like how you spent our anniversary dinner money on jewelry for someone else, or how you used our rent money for that motorcycle, or how you've stolen nearly $75,000 from me over 3 years. Marcus's jaw dropped. "You've been keeping track?" "I'm a businesswoman, Marcus. Of course I've been keeping track." That's when the anger took over completely. "You manipulative bitch! You set me up." "No," I said, my voice deadly calm. "You set yourself up. I just gave you the rope." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The next few minutes were chaos. Marcus ranting about betrayal while simultaneously begging for forgiveness, threatening me one moment, then falling to his knees the next, promising he'd change if I'd just help him one more time. "I can't go to jail, Priya. You know I can't survive in there." You should have thought about that before you decided to embezzle from your employer and financially abuse your wife for 3 years. That's when he played his final card. "Fine, you want to destroy me? But you'll never find anyone else who'll put up with your controlling workaholic bullshit." I smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time in months. "Actually, Marcus, I already have." The look on his face was priceless. Pure, unadulterated shock mixed with the dawning realization that he'd lost everything. "What do you mean?" "I mean, David asked me out, and I said yes. Turns out some men actually appreciate successful women instead of trying to drain them dry." Marcus lunged forward, but I was ready. I pressed the panic button on my phone that would alert both David and the police, then stepped back calmly. "Don't make this worse for yourself than it already is." The sound of sirens in the distance made Marcus freeze. David had warned me that the company would be pressing criminal charges and the police would likely want to arrest Marcus today. "This isn't over," Marcus snarled as the sirens got closer. "Yes, it is," I replied. "Your keys are on the counter, along with divorce papers. Everything in this apartment was purchased by me, so you have no claim to any of it. Your clothes are in garbage bags by the door." The police arrived within minutes, followed by David, who took one look at the scene and immediately moved to stand beside me. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. Better than I've been in years, I answered honestly. Watching Marcus get handcuffed was surreal. 3 years of manipulation, lies, and financial abuse ending with him being led away in the back of a police car. He kept looking back at me through the window, probably still unable to believe that his meal ticket had fought back. After the police left, David and I stood in my living room, surrounded by the debris of my old life. "So," he said, surveying the broken picture frame and scattered papers, "ready for that dinner?" I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. Actually, I was thinking we could order pizza and go over the business proposal I've been working on. Turns out I have some extra investment capital now that I'm not supporting a deadbeat husband. David's eyes lit up. "You want to go into business together?" "I want to build something real with someone who values partnership over parasitism." 6 months later, Marcus pled guilty to embezzlement and was sentenced to 2 years in prison. I divorced him while he was behind bars, claiming back every penny he'd stolen through asset seizure and garnished wages from whatever job he'd eventually find. David and I didn't just start dating. We became business partners, launching a construction and marketing firm that combined his industry expertise with my digital skills. Our first-year revenue exceeded both our previous salaries combined. The best part? Marcus's prison letters begging for forgiveness and asking me to put money in his commissary account. I returned every single one unopened, except for the last one where I included a photo of David and me at our company's grand opening, with a simple note: "This is what a real partnership looks like. Sometimes the best revenge isn't getting mad. It's getting even while building something better with someone who actually deserves you." Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us. Tomorrow would be that moment, and Marcus's world was about to come crashing down in spectacular fashion.